we've been watching since all summer. We watch videos of police beating up people who literally didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? Who literally were with signs outside. Man, what? I'd say that's the other thing that's really scary. Listen, man, listen. Who do these police unions support?
Yeah. Oh no, for those of you wondering, yeah.
You know, like who does the PBA of New York support, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what are the consequences of that, right? We see.
And this is the thing, right? Is like, all right, can I put on my tinfoil hat around you for 2 seconds?
I don't think there's any tinfoil hat that you can do from yesterday. That there's no tinfoil hat. You know what I'm saying? Listen, once again, Clark Kent and Superman. Listen, right? That's not tinfoil.
Right. Well, like, all right. So here's the thing, right? You were talking about cops and violence, right? And so here in Long Beach, right? One of the things that I found really fucking interesting was we have, hours upon hours of peaceful protesting and marching, right? Hours of that shit. There's helicopters up in the sky, news choppers, because you can see, like, where they're from, right? They're there. They don't start going to like live feed super coverage until the Ross gets broken into, right? I saw that happen with my own eyes. I experienced it in my city, right? And so I'm sitting here yesterday thinking, okay, what happened before, right? Like, what was the lead up to those four like fences getting overrun, the cops not doing anything, like the preparation, by the way, that I think is something that is just, oh boy, there's so many layers to get into. But the tinfoil hat person in me is like, what went on before?
So are you ready?
I am. Go ahead.
They were prepared for this.
Yep. Yeah.
That like seriously, you know what I'm saying? Like this is exactly what they wanted to happen. Like this is exactly what they wanted to happen.
Well, and I mean, I'm a little bit of a Monday morning quarterback here, but here, let me give you some reasons why I think it could be a good thing for it to happen for them, right? Number one, when you have a small group of extremist people and they get mowed over, like no matter what happens to them, ain't nobody going to care, right? They are literally just cannon fodder at that point. All you have to do is whip them into a frenzy, let them do their job. And I mean, the way it's been playing out on Twitter, the way it's been playing out in news, I don't like, they're pawns at this point, right? So who gives a fuck about any of it, right? But I think the other thing is that part of me, the top down kind of seeing, like realizing that like my perspective is like a little person bottom up, but also like as someone who's been in a lot of decision-making capacities from up here, like there's no, for whether it's like a Trump or a Cruz or a Hawley or a Biggs, like there's no repercussions to do this shit. There's no repercussions to whip people up at all.
45% of Republicans supported what happened yesterday. That's more than did it. We're in danger. Once again, barring immediate. I mean, listen, these people did this, and how many people got arrested? Right? Like people just walked out, like just walked out and went home and got interviewed by Fox News, right? Like,
well, they walk out and they get interviewed, and yet somehow today, like we've got the FBI, and like even like before we got on the call, like USA Today just put up a thing like, help us identify the people in these photos. Like, did you not get enough footage yesterday when you were?
Listen, did you hear about the guys who they caught because of the shirt, and they found who bought the shirt on Etsy? right? Because it was a unique shirt and they found it on Etsy and they went to the shop and found out who purchased the shirt on Etsy. Yeah, yes, but yes, please, but not the famous YouTubers, right? The famous right-wing provocateurs, right, who are on camera, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're in danger.
So what do we do? Like, I mean, not to get off these things that like my watch tells me raise my heart rate really well. So like there's my cardio for the day, but like, but what do we do? You know?
I mean, who is we? Who's the we? Me and you?
Well, how about
us as a country? Us as politicians?
Let's just start with the basic shit. Like, what do you and me? What do we do? What do you do? What do I do?
Well, I need to stay my ass at home. Because, yeah. No, seriously, you know, like roving bands of white people does not bode well for me. You know, like full stop. Yeah. You know, and like no joke, seriously. If I see a pickup truck and more than 2 white men in that pickup truck, I'm like, yeah, whatever's happening there, I need to go somewhere else, right? Because it's legitimately, you know, you need to stay home, protect yourself, because you can't do anything if you're in danger.
Right.
Stay home individually. I mean, that's the question, right? What do we do? I don't think there's anything we can do on us.
right, you and I.
Like me and you, there's nothing we can do. It is about, once again, our leadership in this time has failed us. They have failed us. Democrats in their own ways, right? But specifically, obviously the Republic. Like, you know, I think a lot of times we criticize Democrats, right, for whatever reason, right? Fine, right? Like that's like criticizing your mom, right? You know, like, yeah, my mom, you know, maybe do the fucking dishes and blah 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 blah, whatever, right? Okay, but umbrella of safety a bit, right?
Right.
The Republicans, man. You know, like after what happened yesterday, they should all be calling for impeachment.
Yeah. Like,
are they?
No.
Are they using the 25th?
No. And I think, like, part of me wonders if we're focused on, you know, like who's using the 25th and, you know, who are we calling for impeachment and, you know, is Congress even going to come back into session before the 19th? I'm wondering if, you know, how much of that we're focusing on, or like, I mean, all right, here, I'll stop hiding behind. I'm wondering about how much of that shit I'm focusing on today, because I feel like there is exactly fuck and or all that I can do right now.
I mean,
you know, like
we live in a republic where we elect leaders to handle our problems for us.
Right.
A democratic republic, right? Where, you know, leaders are supposed to handle our problems for us. That's what we hired them to do, or elect them to do. And, you know, their lives were in danger yesterday.
I'm going to come at you a little bit sideways on something, but
please.
Do you think it's arrogant for people like you and me to think that there's something we can do?
I think it's human. I think it's human. I you know, because we can only control ourselves, right? Like on a basic level, right? We can't control anybody. We can't make anybody else do anything, right? Like I have a 2-year-old, like I can't even get him to go to sleep at night. Right. You know, so we can only control ourselves. So I think it's human, but in reality, I mean, of course, because there isn't. We're one person, you know. Like we could die today. It's not even going to be a blip in the news.
No, it's not. And I mean, not that I don't think either of us are angling for being like the top of the New York Times of
right. Speak for yourself, man.
Yeah. All right. Apologies. I do respect the hustle, and I know it's real as fuck with you. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess that's the thing that I'm just kind of. I guess that's the hardest part in all this. Yeah, we can only control ourselves, but okay, so we think we can control ourselves, sure, but there's so much uncertainty in sitting with that, right? Like, I was talking to another friend of mine earlier today, and she's an educator, K through 12, not collegiate. And there were some people who were asking, like, well, how are you going to talk to the kids today, and yada yada yada, and what are you going to tell them about what happened yesterday? And her response was, well, I'm not going to tell them about what happened because I'm still processing it. I'm still collecting the facts. I'm still collecting the data. Right? And I'm like, cool. And she got static for it from a couple of people who were like, no, you need to have it. You need to tell these kids what's going on. It's like. Her opinion was like, I don't know exactly what's going on yet. I don't know how I feel. Why would I just open my mouth when these kids are looking at me as a leader? Like, my job is to listen today. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like,
I mean, everybody has to handle it their own way, I think. And I want to give space for understanding that everybody has to handle it their own way. Because if I was teaching kindergartners right now, right? Like, I also wouldn't be talking about this in class. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just reality, right? I wouldn't be talking about it. I don't know that this person teaches kindergarten necessarily, right? But I wouldn't be talking about it in class, right? So I have college students. I teach college students, so I'm very well positioned to talk about these things all the time, right? But even me, like I don't have the energy to deal with this right now. So my students, I said, look. Because I started teaching, this session out there. They had class this week.
Right.
I emailed them and said, hey, a lot's happening. It's hard to concentrate. I know stuff is due. Turn it in when you can turn it in. Right. That's my way of acknowledging it. Right. Because I don't ever want to be in a place where, I'm acting like none of this stuff is happening.
Right. No, da. Yeah.
No. But everybody's gonna have to talk about it when they understand it and when they can. Because, another important thing is, I get New York Times alerts, right? Like I'm up on this stuff. There are people who are not up on every single aspect of everything like we are.
Right.
So you got to have space for those people.
Yeah, God, right? Like the having the space to have uncertainty and trust right now is so fucking hard for so many of us, right? You're getting New York Times alerts. I get LA Times alerts because I'm biased.
Yeah.
Right. But every conversation that I've had today in one way or another has at least had a little bit of what's happened yesterday as part of it, right? And this is with I was talking to people in Canada. I was talking to people in other parts of the US. I'm talking to you. You're down here in Southern California. Everyone's been impacted by this stuff.
Yep.
But not everyone has had the time or the space or has all the insight, right?
There are people in this quarantine who never missed a day of work. Since the beginning of March or whatever, there are people who have never not gone to work. So yeah.
What do you have? You got anything to say about that as a psychologist who studies health behavior at all, Jide?
I mean, once again, this is another place where, and this is one of my expertises, right?
Right.
One of my areas of expertise, this is another place where our leadership failed us, right? They should have paid people money to stay their butts at home.
Right.
There's a really simple solution to this, right? It's expensive, right? It whatever, but pay people money to sit their butts at home. And they didn't do that. And now, people are dying in California every 8 minutes, right? I was just reading it on CNN or something like that, right?
Yep.
If you get into a car accident right now and it's looking bad for you, oh boy.
Dude, yeah, they said, what was it? I'm trying to remember the headline, but it was something like they were telling ambulance dispatchers and ambulance companies, if it looks bad for them, don't even bother bringing them.
Yeah.
I didn't know ambulance service. I didn't know EMTs were hospice services.
Right.
But I guess they are. Yeah. I want to push back on one thing. Well, not push back, but clarify something you said. Because you just said it would be expensive, right? And I think one of the things that has really become clear to me in the last year is that a lot of times when people say something is expensive, they're talking about expensive relative to value, when those things should actually be like separated out in my mind, right?
Yes.
And like, you know, people are like, hey, Ian, why don't you move back to, you've heard this before, but like, hey, Ian, why don't you move back to Arizona? Land is so cheap and houses are too. And my response is, you get what you pay for.
Right.
Like that money, like raw cost is not the same as value.
Right.
And the one thing that we're divorced on, and the thing that we really suck at talking about in a lot of ways, is like talking about value of things, right?
Yep. I 100% agree with you. Like I'm saying expensive in the not like I view it as expensive, right? Because you know like Tupac said, they got money for wars but can't feed the poor.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
right?
You know, NYPD just got Teslas.
right.
Right, but there's decades long housing wait list, right, for people who don't have, but you know, so yeah,
and
like agree with you.
And that well, that's the thing though, right? Is it like I feel like we're skipping over so much of that conversation about value so much of the time, and this is clearly not to excuse anything that I disagree with or to support anything that I agree with. And yes, I'm going to issue that blanket statement because I know I'm guilty of it too, because I'm fucking human. But like, I grew up in a very red state, right? Like I grew up in Goldwater country. And a lot has changed about my politics since I was younger, you know, and I voted for George W. Bush in 2000. But that said, like there was always this clear-cut line of like, here's what we value, here's what we're willing to spend, whether it's money or time or effort or soldiers or tax credit, whatever, right? Like there was always that kind of that line, that through line. And maybe I'm an old man, I don't see that through line being expressed super clearly by a lot of people right now. It certainly wasn't there yesterday, right? Like, you've said before.
So what do you mean? What do you mean? The through? What do you mean?
Well, like the through line between like value to like what do we value? What are we willing to spend about it or do about it? And how do like we present that argument? Right? Like how do we kind of show that through line, right? Like here's what our values are, here's what we are willing to say, spend, and do about it, and here's how it all comes together. I don't see that as clearly anymore. Who knows? Maybe I'm just like, maybe my head's just, you know, either in the ground or up my ass. Like you've talked about needing to have shared values and shared backgrounds and shared understandings. Like what's your headspace say on this sort of stuff?
You know, I think that let me make sure I say this correctly. I think that we would be surprised at how similar Donald Trump is to Ronald Reagan. Or not surprised. I don't want to say surprised, like surprised isn't the word, but we would have I think most people, even on the right, I think most people on the right who would even be disgusted by Donald Trump, right? There's a bit of this is what you've been like all along. Have you not? You know, like at least for me, right? Like I'm like, you know, it's really the same shit. Like, you know, like this. Don't get me wrong. Donald Trump sucks, right? Like, I was born in 1990. Okay, I was born in 1990.
Right.
In my life, he's been the worst president that we've ever had.
Right.
Okay, because
Right.
Bill Clinton, I wasn't really there, right?
Right.
George W. Bush, I wasn't there, right?
Uh-huh.
I couldn't even vote for Barack Obama. I was a month off of voting for Barack Obama in 2008. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like I
Right.
couldn't even vote, right?
Right.
And Barack Obama was fine, relative, right?
Mhm.
This man has been the worst president, but a lot of the stuff and values and XYZ he's had, you can trace it back to, I mean, even listen, do you know how one way that racism cost Republicans the Senate? Okay, I'm going to tell you. So, they had these runoffs, right?
Right.
Do you know why they have runoffs?
I don't.
Because historically they knew that there's a large concentration of Black people in the South,
Right.
right? In Georgia.
Uh-huh.
So if a Black candidate would run, 100 years ago, right, with enough votes, he could win. They could win the office. They could win political office, right?
Right.
So they said, no, we're going to institute a runoff. So you have to get at least 50% of the vote to make sure that even if 33% of all Black Georgians voted for whichever Black candidate, they couldn't win. You got to do another election to win 50%, right? So think about this. If they would have just went with the election, with the results on election night, Warnock still would have won, right? But Purdue also would have won.
Yeah.
Right? And they would have had control of the Senate, right? Yes. So their own, racist, whatever, cost them all of this.
Wow.
Cost them all of it. Yeah. From way back when they didn't see it, right? But once again, there's a like that's a through line.
Yeah.
They do not want people to vote.
No. Well, they don't want very particular classes of people to vote. And like, I guess. So one, thank you, and I hate you for. No. That's thank you. That's crazy to fucking no. Now I'm going to go and find even more to read about it. Thanks for whatever Wikipedia spiral I go on later. You
right? Yeah.
Jerk.
What's your favorite Wikipedia spiral, by the way? This is totally random.
My favorite
what's the topic
Wikipedia
that always
spiral?
gets you like going.
Actually, like, all right, I maybe not my favorite, but like recently, it's going to sound really crazy. It's transistors and vacuum tube technology, and like going through, like,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I have a wide range of interests. Yeah, no, that's what really like, and I think part of the reason that it was a great spiral is it had nothing to do with anything that was out there or with God damn though, like that's flooring my mind. Yeah, just like from a just a straight numbers perspective, you could not, like, if you're only 33% of the population, you can't get 50% of the
can't get 50%. Vote. Yeah. And there's an inherent assumption in there. They know white people are not going to vote for a Black person. Yeah. Man. Regardless of their values, regardless of actually what they believe, regardless of the thing they want to uphold, right? They are not going to vote for a Black person.
Well, and I mean, and I can already kind of like hear the haters saying like, well, that's not really what happened. They said something else. Like, okay, well, they said something else, but what about the fact that Raphael Warnock is only the 11th Black senator ever? Black people are 13% of this country.
Ever.
There have been a lot more than, well, I do the math, but like there's
it's not an accident.
Yeah.
It's not an accident.
No, it's not. Well, and like, and people who are trying to say that this is like new stuff too, like this is where I get on like my old like ranty man chair, right? Like maybe I'll bring it back. I had this thing, like, do you know the name Lee Atwater?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
right?
yeah.
I made a shirt a few years ago when I was in graduate school that just was like Lee Atwater's face and just said "fuck Lee Atwater."
Great. Love it.
For anyone who doesn't know who Lee Atwater is, he's the architect of the Southern Strategy. He's the guy who peeled off the Dixiecrats, like the super like kind of racist like Old Dominion Democrats for Nixon, right? And I'm not going to say what he said because this will be broadcast at some point probably, but you owe it to yourself to go and look up Lee Atwater in his own words, what he said about why he employed the Southern Strategy. Like, and that shit happened.
Full-blown racist. Full blown, not regular racist.
Full blown, like on tape in the 60s or no, wait, no, the interview was in the 80s. So like 40 years ago on tape, full blown racism.
Full blown.
Yeah, and if you listen to it and you think anything other than, well, oh, that guy wasn't racist, or oh, he had something else, like no, he was using race as like a strategy, and he knew exactly what he was doing to but anyway, but like this has been in the playbook for decades at this point. Right? Forever. And I can't, and maybe, on other days I think, well, maybe I'm just kind of like short-sighted, or I'm not seeing clearly enough, or I'm not looking at other people enough, or like I'm not trying to be circumspect enough, but like it's just been around for forever. Like, can we at least admit that? Like,
I mean, who once again, you're a scientist, right? You have a PhD, who is the we? Who like that we? Like who is that we? Right? Like who is the we? Because there are people who are gonna tell you, like, who are sitting on their porch 100 years old, who are like, they finally get it.
Yeah, right.
They've known.
all these fucking smart people, it only took them 3 generations to figure it out.
Like they've known. So I mean, but no shared values, no shared reality is dangerous. Once again.
Can I tell you a personal story? Please. I know I can tell you a personal
I love stories.
I'm just giving myself like permission to like crack open the archives a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I've told you in conversations before, I'm a genealogy and genetics nerd, maybe.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. Like family history is something that's really cool to me. I blame it fully on the fact that I grew up in Mesa, which has a very strong LDS population, and part of their religious kind of background is being able to trace your family back to Noah, essentially, right? So they've got, before Ancestry and all that came around, like there were family history centers where you could go in, there were just genealogical records and yada, 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 right?
Crazy.
So I've been into this shit for a while, but I've especially been into it in the internet age, because there were a lot of question marks about my family on both sides. I'm going to talk about my dad's side here for a second, though. A lot of question marks beyond like 2 or 3 generations above me, right? And even those people, like my great grandparents, like we knew something about them, but we didn't know everything, right? I did a lot of digging, found a whole lot of stuff before that, before those great grandparents of mine. One of the things that I found, which is, I'm trying not to be glib about this, but I found actual receipts on something, like receipts for the sale of human people. Yep. Would you care to guess, Jide, what the color of the people was that were sold by my ancestors?
I can imagine.
You can imagine, right?
I can imagine.
You can imagine.
Yeah.
So I'm not reading between, so no one has to read between the lines on this. They were black. Their names were Enoch and Mary. Like they had fucking names that they were probably given by whoever fucking traded them into my ancestors' family, right? Here's the thing that was really interesting though about that. So like, I find this out and I just kind of sit there and go like, okay, cool. Well, I mean, there goes that entire my ancestors didn't own slaves sort of thing, right?
Right.
And it took me some time to come to terms with that, even though I'm differently politicked than a lot of my family. But man, having that conversation with my dad, that was something that he told me was very important to him, because it made things a lot more real. Like, because he was always told, he grew up in the old fucking South, right? Like, he was always told, all the racist shit that you get told, and like, why would anyone, like, no, there's no reason to repair anything. There's no reason to do anything. Like, we didn't do that. It's like, yeah, we fucking did. Literally, here's the receipt. Like, literally the receipts.
Right.
My dad got it. Other people in my family didn't.
Mhm.
And so when you talk to you, the reason I'm bringing this up is because you were talking about shared reality, right? And you're talking about like, sometimes I don't know that there is a shared reality that's possible.
I mean, so that's a good point, right? So I'll say this: there's no shared reality that's gonna happen 100%,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's definitely no way that you're gonna get every single person to agree on something, right?
Sure.
Like, even I recently gave an online test, and sometimes I like to give freebies, right?
Mm-hmm.
The last freebie said true, false, answer true. Okay.
Okay.
There are still people who choose false. Do you know
Because-
what I'm saying? Like, listen, no, that's just
Yep.
life,
Yep.
right? But there are steps you can take as a country to move towards reparation and reconciliation, right? So in Germany, being a Nazi is not you have a far easier time being a Nazi here.
as evidenced by some of the flags at yesterday's rally.
You have a far easier time being a Nazi here.
Yeah. Yeah,
than you do being a Nazi in Germany right now, right?
Which reminds me, I've got a story to tell you when we're not on a phone call.
Yeah, please,
about
yeah.
Nazis and my childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so you'll never get, and regardless, there are still Nazis there, right? There are still people who behave in those ways there, who practice those beliefs, but culturally, like, generally, that's just not cool.
and this comes back to your point about leadership, though, right? Like, are you ever going to get rid of the Nazis in Germany? No. But
Nope.
you can sure as hell make it so they have a hard time growing, and you can sure as hell make it so they don't have the social proof necessary to grow. Right?
And you can hold people accountable at the time of actions, right? So think about it, right? Civil War, United States history, the war ended and they said, everybody go home.
Yep. Okay. Everyone pack up your toys.
Everybody's done. Everybody go home. We're just gonna, we're not gonna engage in enslavement of enslaved Africans anymore in this way. In this way, right? But everybody go home, right? Mm-hmm. That was the end. Nobody really got in freaking trouble, right? Like, they didn't, a few decades later, Jim Crow laws got, like, all of these things, right? Like, there's been no atonement, right? Let me go to Germany right now with the Nazi flag. Let's see what's gonna happen.
Right? Get you, like, I mean, or ask anyone who, like, makes content, like, there's this YouTube channel I watch, Extra Credits, and they like do history, right? Like, they have to, I believe this was a couple of weeks ago, we posted about, like, why, like, people were asking, like, well, why didn't you put the Nazi flag in this thing about, like, Nazis? Like, because if I did that, it couldn't air in Germany. Yep. And it was more important for me to be able to get this information out and get rid of this one thing than it was to put in the Nazi flag and then have, like, all of Germany be essentially banned from seeing my content. Right?
And that's the way the government is supposed to respond after an injustice, right? So we're here now. So yesterday, people stormed the Capitol.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
That happened. That, like, I woke up, I was like, maybe I was dreaming.
No.
Check my phone. Nope. That happened. Okay?
Here's photos. Yeah.
What are we gonna do about it? Are people gonna go to jail? Are people gonna get in trouble? Are we gonna pass any laws? I mean, what is really gonna happen now? Because that also sets the stage. I have kids. Do all kids do all day when they're pushing boundaries and doing things is watch to see how you'll react.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you don't react, great. That means I could go more.
Right.
Positively, great. That means I could do it in your face, louder, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you react and let them know it's wrong,
yep,
they'll change their behavior.
Right. And that,
what are we gonna do?
Well, like, what are we going to do? And like, other than like sending off some emails to my Congress critters like I did today, other than like having this conversation and trying to process my own feelings about, which I'm going to be doing for ever, like,
yeah.
well, not for forever, because this is just like you said, this is like the pregame. Like, wait until wait until the next thing comes through. I don't know, like,
to the Trump News Network,
dude, right? It's coming.
It's
coming,
and
like,
he's in his safe house, ordering his people to do whatever he wants, right? We've I mean, not we, as in me and you,
right?
But Republican politicians and whatnot have enabled him to be able to do this. No standards.
But they were there yesterday too, right? Like, they were there yesterday too, and
you saw Josh Hawley.
I saw Josh Hawley, right? Like, I saw a lot of people.
Ted Cruz, the Zodiac killer. Yeah.
On a caterpillar.
Yeah.
Who says the left can't meme? That was fucking funny.
Listen, Ted Cruz, the Zodiac killer, man. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, right. No, but I guess that's like, I don't know. Maybe this is the thing that I'm really, really kind of trying to figure out at this point, right? And that I'm going to be figuring out is, I can feel enraged. Like, I can feel a whole range of feelings, like enraged, distraught. Let's see. Enraged, distraught. Not really confused, which is kind of frightening. Like you said, we only have, like, we can control ourselves here. So, like, what is my step on doing this, right? Like, I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like, what am I going to do, and what kind of, does it need a return? Do I do this, like, whatever I do from here forward, is it purely a, is it purely a symbolic thing? Does it have to be meaningful? Where does the meaning come from, right? Like, do I want to take time away from, like, family, and like, I got all this shit to balance. You've got all this shit to balance. We all have this shit to balance, right?
Yep.
And like, so I don't know.
There is no right answer, right? There is no right answer. But I've told you this, and I'll be consistent on this. And this is generally one of my feelings. We need better people in politics. We need better people in politics. We need better politicians. You know what I'm saying? Like, too many of them go in to be rich and make themselves richer, right? Like, and all those things. And we need better people who have actually been poorer, right? People who've actually struggled, people who actually care about justice and, XYZ to run for politics. And, if you have the knowledge in the background, you should probably do it. My Twitter feed has disqualified me eternally, right? Dude, so I've already accepted that. I can't do it.
Only because of how you feel about, like, KitKats.
Oh, come on. Right. Yeah, it's the KitKats that are going to get me right now. He likes my talking KitKats. No, we can't vote for him. Yeah.
I mean, well, I'll be honest though, like, again, getting a little bit more, like, real on, like, my side of things, like, I pulled off of social media a lot, like, last year, even in 2019, because of what was going down with my pops. And I don't know that I want to be the kind of person who is so self-censorious that I would be in a position to run for something big, right? Because ironically, like, all that shit you were saying about, people who have been poor, or people who, like, I've done that a lot, but it gives me perspective on things that is not, even if I say it with the most decorum and the most kind of, like, back straight, and here's why we need to do this today. Like, that sort of, even if I say it with that amount of precision and class, or whatever, performative nature is necessary, like, there are still people who are just trying to, like, who would blow shit up over that, right? Or say that it's either too woke or not woke enough, or, oh, well, you're getting rid of these people, or you're not paying attention. It's like, it's really a catch-22 for a lot of ways. I mean, like, obviously with this, I don't give a fuck. I mean, maybe I'm trying to get disqualified. I need to put more spicy, more spicy KitKat opinions up on.
Right. Clearly.
But, like, yeah, I mean, maybe politics is the solution. Although I will say, one other thing I would like to see like dispensed more to people is more people willing to take power and fail at it.
That's a huge. I mean, many politicians only care about re-election, right?
Yeah.
They actually don't care about, governing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's like the mayor of Stockton, Michael Tubbs, I believe. He passed the universal basic income in Stockton.
Yep.
He went for it.
Yeah.
He didn't win re-election, and that's all right.
That's fine, right? Like,
but you try to do the right thing.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? Like, call it a one and done. You're not looking to set up like a three-peat. Like, you're looking to set up like, I got on the court, I played, and that's all that mattered, right? Because I don't know, a lot of the hell, even in my local elections, I don't think that everyone's always of that mindset.
Right. No, people got to be. I mean, you have to be ready to do the right thing and for it not to work.
And
that's life.
Yeah.